This is Mid-Atlantic Women in Agriculture's Wednesday webinar. Our topic today, why value-added products fail. Our presenter is Ginger Myers with University of Maryland Extension. A special thank you to our sponsors, Mid-Atlantic Farm Credit, Delaware Department of Agriculture, and Maryland Department of Agriculture. All archived presentations can be found at our website. And this presentation has been pre-recorded, but the presenter has provided her email address for any questions. Thanks for listening.
Good afternoon and welcome to this Wednesday webinar for Women in Ag. My name is Ginger Myers. I'm the marketing specialist with the University of Maryland Extension and the director of the Maryland Rural Enterprise Development Center. Usually when I title a presentation kind of in a negative way, like why value-added products fail, it gets listed with a positive twist anyway. So when I put this final presentation together, I looked at the slide and decided to title it Value-Added Products We're Going to Be Rich. And actually I'd like to pause on this opening slide a minute because value-added products really is a much broader category than just when we talk about value-added. We're seeing value-added at the farm level with the change of product and shelf life, but we're seeing a lot of food entrepreneurs that are looking at value-added as the way things are being produced, such as gluten-free or GMO-free, or specialty foods of all types, and also value-added from the standpoint of values and ethics as to how products are being made. So the term's really expanded. This could be entrepreneurs and specialty foods. And yes, maybe you could get rich. The other thing I want you to focus on this introductory slide is that picture of picante sauce as a baby sauce. And the message I want you to think about here is just because you can make something, should you? And sometimes we need to kind of massage the product we thought we were going to start with when we start to do some real market research. And so I want you to keep your minds open and flexible to change as we talk about this process as well. Again, I have been with Extension a number of years. I'll apologize that a few of the text got cut here on this slide, but I have worked for a long time with entrepreneurs, agribusinesses, small direct farms such as farmers markets, pick your own, CSAs, and more I'm assisting with the business development and planning for food entrepreneurs. And it's really challenging in that there's a lot of open opportunity, but also we're hearing more and more about the Food Safety Modernization Act, working with the health departments both in state and local regs, and being kind of the network node between some of those agencies and you, the producers. And I do enjoy that role, and I would encourage you, if you have questions or concerns, particularly after this presentation and as you work down through your business, to please contact me and if I can be a resource for you. Looking back to that value-added specialty foods, prepared foods, the market has gotten to be tremendous. First, when you think about cooking channels and all the food sections in newspapers, people seem to be much more concerned about what they're eating and how it's prepared and the great variety. But I found this quote from Doug Ronch when he started Daily Table, which is a small deli in the Boston area, when he said that 80% of Americans don't know what they're having for dinner at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I thought, well, wow, I mean, really? And so I've been asking family, friends, and fools about this for several months now, and while there are those who sit down and do meal planning for the week, a lot of folks are driving home trying to figure out what they're going to have. And there again, the opportunity to pick up a product that saves time, it's already prepared, it's local, it's a favorite, it's something to add or spruce up to use as a sauce, really captures people's dollars here and the opportunity to get in on that market. Some of the things I'd like to discuss here today is ways to take a look at value-adding opportunities. We already talked about that, a little bit of convenience and target market, and we're going to talk about that a whole lot more. But also sometimes why some of these efforts aren't always as successful as we like. And then to look at some of the marketing strategies that go along with prepared value-added specialty products. So value-added, what is it? Oftentimes when I talk to someone who's going to make a product, I hear them saying that they want to do this and they like this kind of thing. And the first question I ask them, are you making a product or are you making a job for yourself? And we've got to remember that these products, adding value, is a customer-driven process. There has to be a market for what you're going to make, because you're going to retain more of the food dollar by processing and packaging and marketing, but it's also got to be a product that sells. The degrees of value added, and this is somewhat at the farm level, but I also listen to food entrepreneurs who are looking for specific niches. There can be anything from a minimal point used to extend shelf life. That can be anything from drying of herbs and I see beef jerkies and dried products to extend shelf life. The other side of that is frozen. In other words, we're seeing a product that's a frozen state, again, the take-home heat and eat kind of thing. The production methods, this could be, and we're looking here at growing methods, organic, grass-fed, heirloom varieties, we think of the inputs, but the production methods could also be working in a gluten-free kitchen, or using only a certain variety of fruits in the jams, jellies, and certainly the rise in distilleries and breweries on farms are looking at that artisanal production method. We see it in the cheeses, as the cheeses have come along a long ways in production in the state. The other way to add value, of course, is the purchasing experience. People, they love to shop, but they want to have a good experience doing it. Farmers markets are not convenient for most folks, but they stop for the buying experience of talking to farmers, of picking their own product. Is there a point of sales for your product that is part of that buying experience? We think of agritourism as a way. The wineries, we've seen the tasting rooms. Now we're seeing the food hubs and the aggregation of food purchasing areas. I think of in Baltimore City, when you think of a market like Lexington Market or Belvedere Square, where there's several food vendors of processed products, anywhere from sitting down to eating at the table or taking it home. Very much the experience of buying. So why would you decide to add value to a product? Well, certainly when we look from the farm standpoint, and I looked at the list here of folks, and I can see some of you are farm producers and some of you are just food producers, and while I'm going to use the term farm, you can pretty much fit yourself right in there. It may increase your farm viability. It may increase your entrepreneur food dream viability if you can get this accomplished. For farms, it also may increase the visibility, back to having folks come to the farm to buy, or if you have a specialty product where they come to a farm stand or come to a specialty foods market where your product is going to be seen. It may expand the market season. Seasonality is one of the challenges that we see for folks who are used to producing to the season from farm production, but also I see that folks who are making products sometimes forget that there's a seasonality for almost anything. There are certain times of the year when we're looking for those jams and jellies and sauces. I think of the times like Super Bowl, when we're looking for really creative snack ideas, versus here we go into Memorial Day weekend. Do you have a product that fits into someone's holiday cookout in some way. So we're looking at expanding the market season. And then, of course, you may have new markets that you haven't looked into before. My husband and I have a grass-based livestock farm, and while we sell cuts of meats, we are now looking at pulled pork barbecue and sloppy joes and beef and chili. These are prepared heat and eat products that we're getting into stores that don't carry our frozen meat, and that's okay because we're not looking to be that big, but we now have a convenience food that they can stock and are considering for sales. Though I will say that there are certainly a lot more risks, and when we say risk, we're talking liability, financial, human resources, all those items that come to play with turning out a product versus just selling a bulk commodity. I spoke with a producer the other day, and all she wants to do is grow garlic, and that's fine, but you have to sell a lot of garlic to make a full-time living at it. So if she's going to add value, is she talking about different varieties? Are we now talking about pickling? Are we talking about drying? Are we talking about braiding garlic for decoration? So there's a risk factor there, but it's the returns that we've really got to consider. So certainly, as we said, you can make higher profits. One of the reasons we sell our meats direct at the farm is because the profit certainly is better selling it a pork chop at a time than selling the whole hog at an auction. Though it's a little more risky and it's a lot more work, we do see better profits. The other thing is whether you're a business owner and you want to have control over your product. You like being able to look at customers. You enjoy taking that raw material and turning it into a different product that has great flavor, good quality, and you're making that connection of producing a food item, which is really important. We're feeding people, we're feeding your neighbors, we're feeding our communities, and we're looking for folks that really value these products. I think sometimes all of entrepreneurs kind of hold up and work on their own, and it's really satisfying when they can get out and see how other people value their time. Of course, just about any product you're getting into, you're going to have some competition. I see very few new food products hit the market. I mean, brand new food products. And so what your challenge is to, how are you going to get folks to take money out of their pocket and put it into yours, but also how are you going to get market share for what's out there already? There's about 1,800 salsa types already on the market. Salsa is now the #1 condiment in the United States. 1,800. And every year there's new product that comes onto grocery shelves. And you say, well, with 1,800, nobody needs a new salsa. Well, if you stop and think about salsas, salsa is a broad category, and then you look at the subcategories. Of course, you can divide them by whether they're mild or medium or hot, but also ingredients. We have fruit salsas, we have blends of specific vegetable salsas, we have salsas that are to be added to standalone salsas or mixed into a product. There's different colors, so while there's 1,800 products, there's about 15 subcategories of salsas out there. So that's why we keep seeing what we think are a saturated market have new products come on. Though I'm not going to encourage you to look at a saturated market and just hop right in. We're back to doing some real market research and determining. Remember, I said early on in that first slide, just because you can make something, should you do it? So why doesn't this work? I've just talked about the terrific market. People are much more knowledgeable about their foods. They're looking for a buying experience. They're looking for a quality product and a face of the producer. So why isn't this just a turnkey thing to do? Isn't it easy? Well, sometimes the product doesn't match or satisfy a customer's wants or needs. Remember that original definition of value added was that it was a customer-driven proposition. in that you've got to produce something folks want. Just because you may love a product, say it's Estonian black beans, if no one's ever heard of Estonian black beans and it's not a product they're familiar with, no matter how good your product is, it's going to be hard to get that into the market. The other thing that happens is that consumers, I saw another statistics, 80% of consumers assume the government regulations on food will keep their food safe. So if you're not looking, your product doesn't look like what they usually see in the store. If they see you as someone who produces on the side and they don't feel you're under regulations or standards, there's a mistrust. In our own production here at the farm, all our animals are processed under USDA processing with the stamp and the inspection. Yet oftentimes I still have folks come and ask whether we slaughter these animals on the farm, cut them and freeze them ourselves, that somehow they perceive that we are not as trustworthy or meeting safe food standards. So part of your story has to be right off the bat is that this food is professionally produced, you meet all regulations, you have a label that they can read and understand that's been produced with the food allergens and the proper information. Just because it's farm produced or it's a small quantity produced, while there's some folks that appreciate that, they're still going to be leery if they can't find nutritional labeling, labels, clear packaging, and complete information about what your product is. Again, I ask you early on, I want you to step back and think whether you're starting a business or making a job for yourself. Early on, you're going to be the chief cook and bottle washer. You're going to do anything from making the product to marketing the product to shipping the product to doing the accounting. And while that may make a job for yourself, it is very difficult to scale up, to take that beyond sort of the small cottage business to where it's a sustainable living. And again, I don't know what timeline you're on, but one example is, say you love to bake pies and you're really good at baking pies, so you open a little bakery and pie shop in town. Well, you're so busy doing everything else plus baking the pies that you're kind of taking the joy out of it as well. So I really encourage you to look at this as a business of which you're certainly going to donate a lot of your time early on, getting it launched, getting it the product in marketable shape. But eventually you need to have a business owner mindset. And when you can't get beyond that point, then folks either can't make enough money or they burn out trying to do it all themselves. The other category I find is that people are a little hesitant to price their product for profit. While you put a lot of time and money into it, one of the thoughts is, well, I can enter the market by being less cost or a less expensive product than others, and then once I get it going, I'll change my price. It is very, very difficult to move prices up once you've kind of trained your customers to the prices that you have. It doesn't mean that you'll never be able to change your price. Sometimes, for instance, when fuel prices were really high, products, we saw an increase because delivery costs had gone up, and so customers understood that there was an increase there that had to be passed along. But I use this example, and again, I apologize there for the misspelling on the gourmet apple butter, at $10 a jar. And you might say, boy, that's expensive apple butter. Well, perhaps it's sugar-free or it's a flavor, but $10 was a nice round number to use, and it's really not that far off when you look at a quart. So when you start calculating for price, I know some folks go out and look at what will the market bear, pricing it whatever they can find online or what they see at the farmer's market. And while that's one way to get kind of an idea, of what prices will be, you really need to step back and do a two-step process to look at this. Getting a selling price kind of gives you a baseline, a proposed selling price. When you start putting in variable costs, those are the costs that you're going to have to get that apple butter in the jar. Here I've used some, of course, the raw material. I did put in an hourly labor, and some folks will leave that out, but in reality, if you don't start putting that in from the beginning, you'll never know at what sales level you need to be to stop being the person who does it all and get someone else in there. I put in a sales commission because usually there's some percentage of a product going to go against your marketing costs, whether that's the jars or the labelers or the delivery to where it's going to be sold. Same way with shipping costs. You can kind of look at this a little bit on your own situation, where what must you have to get a jar out. So in this situation, those variable costs that changed depending on how many jars I made, but on a jar was $5.50. So out of that $10, it leaves us $4.50. Woohoo! That is not our profit though, because there's some other things we have to take care of too. So $4.50 is the contributive margin for each unit of sale to pay some fixed cost and profits. All we've really done with variable cost is pay for what goes in the jar and getting the jar on the assembly line or the bag in the box. So, okay, what are fixed costs then? Well, it's what it takes to run. Now, if you have to rent a commercial kitchen, or you could say, well, I do that in my home. Well, I put in some of the other costs like telephone insurance. Maybe you had to borrow money. Again, you can argue with a few of these categories, but if you are honest with yourself and sit down and look at your time, either your time to do this or to hire this, you're going to find you have some fixed costs. They're the things that don't change irregardless of how many jars you make. If you're renting a facility, if you have to have liability insurance, you have to have the license to do some of these things. You change your categories, but there are fixed expenses, and you can do this on a monthly basis. That $4.50 contributes to paying. That's what, after all the product costs of getting it in the bag. So the question is, that $10 apple butter, how many do you have to sell to pay both the variable, which we knew was by the amount of product, and then these fixed expenses? You all with good math probably have this already figured out. And actually what we're looking for is what we call the break-even point. At what's the price when you run $10 a jar, when you get everything in for the month, how do you break even? Now that is not profit, okay? That's just covering everything. We knew it was $10 a jar. We had variable cost of $5.50, $4.50 on the contributive cost. We had fixed monthly expenses. Now these you can try to keep down, but you need to be realistic about what some of those are. So we had $13.50 when we divided by our contributive margin, 300 jars a month. 300 jars and you haven't made a penny yet. You have broken even. So this exercise can be kind of daunting, and it will change and be variable, but you need to sit down and start penciling a little of this out to make sure that you're on an upward trend at least. Some folks won't want to put in their labor costs. Some folks, if you're making this in a kitchen, probably will say, well, I'm not paying myself rent for the kitchen, but I'm going to ask you about the electric that's running that kitchen, about the whatever costs and cleaning. Maybe you had to put a door on there to get that kitchen approved as a commercial kitchen to use for your product. There were costs in there. So again, I really, down the road, once we get further sometime, you need to really think about contributive margin. The money that's left to pay the fixed cost and a profit. The higher you can get that contributive margin, the better your profit's going to be. But the message here is to really figure out When can you make a profit? Because there's going to always be so much product every month that just covers all the cost. And then look at beyond that. Problems with distribution. Consider that you need to make enough product to get beyond that break even and make a profit. I worked with a gentleman who was doing, again, a fresh salsa. He was from Venezuela, had a really nice product, and he got into Wegmans with his product. Well, he was so enthusiastic that Wegmans asked him to cover 6 stores. He was making this salsa in the evenings in a commercial kitchen he rented. It was just him, and he was doing his deliveries out of coolers in his car. Well, he could not keep up with the deliveries, and his product quality suffered, so he ended up, and Wegmans left him back down to 1 store, and he got his 1 store going and supplied and really got on track. But when you think about what it takes to sell, how much can you make of that product? Can you make enough to go to farmers markets on a regular basis? You're going to need to have enough product for busy days. There will be some slow days, but it's difficult to build up loyal customers if you are kind of, again, hit or miss on supply. If there's a particular flavor or package size that you have trouble getting a sufficient amount made of, that can lose you customers. And again, being able to deliver product on a consistent basis and meeting strict delivery schedules. When you're selling at a farmer's market, basically you're coming to the farmer's market. But if you're getting your product into maybe a specialty store or into a food hub market, there are only certain times of the day that they'll want folks to deliver. They'll want their invoices in a certain style. They will also want you to take care of quality control of product. If that product needs to be taken out of a case from the previous week and restocked, that's going to be part of your distribution plan. So before you gear up too big and get into a place that you're having trouble supplying, kind of grow with your production abilities so that the delivery and distribution situation can be handled right off the bat. Now, a lot of folks have started asking me about online sales. And yes, that can be a good market if you have a successful way of taking internet orders or even local orders. But if you have a product that's heavy, sometimes shipping can cost almost as much as the product, and you'll need to have a way to work with a vendor to ship. The other thing I'm finding more and more that there are internet scams now. If you have a site where you're shipping where someone will say, I only purchase with credit cards and send it to California, you have to be a little careful now. Again, the internet has provided us with an expanded market experience, but you have to be a little more market savvy on shipping costs, shipping containers, and then of course secure payment option when you start getting into internet sales. So a few rules to make this work. Of course, hard work and your dedication and your personal goals are number one. What do you want this value-added business to be? What do you want it to represent? What does it represent to you and your family? High-quality products is the number one marketing asset. Again, question, why should I take money out of my pocket and put it into yours? For what? What am I buying? And so there are so many products on our grocery shelves, and again, wherever you shop, that there's just no room if the product isn't just perfect. I've had some folks who say, you know, the this is a little discolored at the top, but the product's perfectly fine and safe. No, you can't do this. I know out here in my own freezer with my meat, if something's gotten a little frosted, I know it's fine, but my customer doesn't want that. They want to see my package of frozen burger to look just like the burger in the store. Back to that, perception is reality, and this high quality product, that's what you'll have every time. The other rule of success is start small. You know, work at getting the product consistent. For those who are doing some kind of acidified foods or something that will need process authority approval, you'll get this taken care of as you work out your recipe and your HACCP plans. For some of the rest of us who might not have to go quite through those loops, we need to be very, very familiar with the attributes of our product to figure out what do you have to have for a consistent basis product. Example back to my own where we work in with meats, beef, pork, lamb, chicken. You need to know the cuts. You need to know where cuts come from. You need to know how those cuts are cooked. And while you say, well, you know, I'm just starting small with a few steers, and I'm going to do local sales, you'll still need to have the ability to talk about that product and you know, why it is my T-bone not always the same size just like it is in the store. Well, there's some variation on the steer sides, but they don't want to see a lot of variation. Then again, matching placement to that volume. My story of the gentleman with his Venezuelan salsa, he just got way ahead of his volume. And what I find is that when you can match that placement to your volume, you can keep your quality high, and it opens the door for the next step, the next sales, the next opportunity, so then you can gear up somewhat. Number 3, the emperor may have no clothes. You know, we hear a lot of stories. We read in a lot of articles where someone, you know, has gotten into making the next great potato chip, or you know, lots of sales potential. Be careful that you don't get the cart before the horse a little bit. Remember that pricing example I gave you. Take a hard look at it. I know that there's some new products. There's a new berry, the aronia berry, that's been in Europe for years and it's big in the Midwest. We're hearing a lot about the sales potential for that berry and its products, and I do think they're there, but we also have a public that doesn't understand the health benefits of that berry, and it's not like a blueberry that you can pop in your mouth and enjoy. It's got a different flavor. So when you hear about new production, when you hear about new opportunities, step back and really research and understand what that potential might be and what your product or a variation of your product might be able to use. Okay, I'm finally stopped and took a look at these questions. I'm going to fill in real quick. What do you suggest for shipping for heavier items? Depends on what kind of protection that product needs. If it's can be broken or damaged, you're going to need some kind of shock absorber in there. You're going to need very heavy boxes. I will tell you, Uline is a company that has great shipping supplies, and variations of boxes and pads, and kind of fits anything. I use their frozen coolers, but I see their candy boxes and their temperature control things are very good for that. My bigger concern is that folks have to understand when you ship, what days of the week are you going to ship, so you make sure that it gets there in a timely manner and doesn't sit in some packing house or on a FedEx truck for the weekend. You need to be very clear about shipping, and that also you need to get an estimate of the shipping cost before you close the sale. because folks, no big surprise. When you buy something, say on Amazon, they have you pump in your zip code, and then they give you the estimate of the cost. That estimate's actually built on shipping costs that you can get from a chart from FedEx or UPS or even the post office, shipping zones, how much it's going to cost to ship to different zones. And I will tell you, between the shipping and the box, again, you may have a lot more in that than you do in your product. But again, it's how you're positioning that, whether folks want it or not. Sometimes the heavier options, it's just not feasible. You're going to have to figure out if you can break that down or not. And then sales commissions for food hubs. That varies a lot depending on what the product is. Anywhere from 20 to 30% is pretty average to pay on a commission. Again, if it's a higher end product, the commission's usually a little higher than, say, on pumpkin, something that's not got a big spread to begin with. But if you're looking for a 5 to 10% commission, that just doesn't exist in much of the food industry right now. So sorry that I didn't look at those questions sooner, but we'll keep going here with a few more rules for success. Honest accounting, how much time the business will, that's the biggest gap I see, is that most folks don't put their labor in. They don't put their time in, and they're saying, well, I work on this in the evenings, or I do this on the time because I want to invest my time. And I understand that. But again, if you ever want to be able to hire, if you ever would become ill and couldn't do a delivery that day, what is that worth? So I would really encourage you to keep some honest accounting. Sometimes at the end of the month the bottom line looks a little scary, but forewarned is forearmed, so that you can take action to fix things if you're not where you want to be. And then finally, price and convenience does matter. Just because we have a special product, just because it's small, artisan, boutique, price does make a difference. Now, again, I'll use my own example here. We have heritage beef cattle, and so they are smaller. They are grass-fed. They take longer to finish. And my prices reflect that, and with my customers, I do tell them why I have to price it the way it is, so that I'm upfront, because if I can't charge enough to make that contributive margin with a profit, I won't be in business either. But the other side of that is that all our meats are like in very friendly, family-friendly packaging. 1 pound ground beef, 1 steak per pack, roasts that are cut 2 to 3 pounds, because that's what folks put in their crock pot now. And also we offer pickup at the farmers markets, and I will even do a delivery. I charge for that delivery, but Wednesdays are our delivery days for customers to their door or to our wholesale account. So we do try to make it a convenient look at that ways for your customers. I often, again, at farmers markets find that sometimes product isn't easy to carry. If folks wanted to buy 10 jars of something you had there because it's the holiday and they want to give it as Christmas gifts, seldom do you have something that you can package that up in and make it easy for them to carry to their cars, or even the convenience of times of when they can stop by and pick up product. So again, price and convenience does matter. We're all short on time, and folks are going to know how they can do that with you. And then there can be, we talked a little bit about this seasonality handicap. I work with more producers who are looking at their production and saying, hey, just because it only grows in season, I need to be able to produce this year-round. Because again, when you get to larger accounts, they want to have it available year-round. Now, restaurants may change their menus on a regular basis, but they, again, will want to be able to have product that they work in. For instance, again, I'll use myself because we sell whole frozen chickens to a restaurant. He changes his menu quarterly. It's how he prepares the chicken, but he wants the chicken year-round. So as you start to, again, gear up and look at this, whether you can have a product year-round, whether you can produce to the season from the standpoint of holidays that come in, or certain times when folks purchase your product more often than others. But no longer will folks put up with, or they will get discouraged if you don't have product available all the time. And then being unique is something I think, we said why would you want to do value added? Because you can control quality, you can kind of do your own thing, be your own boss, but again, you can only be as different as the product will bear, the market bears. Differentiating can help you capture niches. Now, niches are by design small, and the niche market works because the bigger producers don't see enough sales in there to capture them, but a niche market for a specialty food producer or a value-added producer is a great way to work in, particularly if you've targeted your customers, that you know who they are. But sometimes being a little too different will leave you with a lot of products sitting on the shelf. Maria Mayer, if there's a question there, all I see are 2 L's. So if you want to retype that, I'll get back to it. And then finally, make a plan about how to scale up. We want you to be successful, and successful will be growing beyond where you are now. But it's not just the dollars involved. What will it take for growth? Will you need to hire help? Will you need a different delivery vehicle? Will you need a different kettle, hot kettle, or pour, or some kind of jar filler, or some way to seal product? Kind of, dream a little bit. Get out ahead of it. And also, when do you want to do that? What does that look like? So work on those long-term plans a little bit. But, do it in a progression of steps. Then, real quick here, it's getting a little late. I want to finish up here with some marketing strategies. Finding the right message. I often ask folks to tell me about their product in 3 to 5 sentences. What is it that will resonate with me? Is it the way you produce it? Is it a special recipe? Is it very healthy? Is it family friendly? Is it gluten free? Is it no high fructose corn syrup? Again, finding the right message, and you probably won't have 10 minutes to talk about it. Get it down to 3 to 5 sentences about what it is that makes your product special. And again, why should I take money out of my pocket and put it in yours? The right message. And then the right medium. We talk a lot about millennials now. Millennials who are, they're on their smartphones. They're very tech savvy. They're looking for Facebook postings and Instagram, and that's where they're looking at. My own children, I know, before they go to any restaurant in the evening, they've already Googled it and looked at the menu and whether there's coupons. And so newsprint isn't all bad, depending on what you're paying for it. But if your audience are looking at a newspaper, then go there. But what other media can there be? There might be group advertising with a farmer's market. Again, we've talked a lot about the electronic media? Are we talking newsletter, emails? What works? Because you won't have time to do them all. So where can you get the most eyes on what you're going to be doing and what you have to offer? So craft the message, get it really pretty succinct, and does it ring with what you really want to say, the right media, and then, of course, deliver to the right market segment. That goes back to customers, targeting customers. Who is your best and your first and best customer? Is it someone who's the busy housewife who, again, doesn't have her meal plan by 4 o'clock in the afternoon? Is that your target, or is it is it the grandparents who want to get healthy foods in for their grandchildren? What market segment are you targeting? Maybe it's folks who are really into healthy eating, and so you're going to be talking about production methods or ingredients. Perhaps it's even values. For instance, we see the products that have a pink ribbon on them because they're supporting breast cancer research. Doesn't really go to the food product as such, is to the value of that market segment. So who is your first and best customer? Because you've got to deliver the right message through the right media, but to the correct segment as well. And most, again, sometimes when folks get started on value-added products and I ask them who their customer is or who they're selling to, and when they tell me everyone, I know that they haven't really honed down that target market enough. So consider what's the right market segment for you. And then we have some resources. My ag marketing website here that I maintain with the extension. The Marketing 101 is a pretty extensive online resource where you can read in segments when you're looking at that. There is a section on value-added products that goes into both the regulatory climate and then also some other resources on as far as finding testing laboratories, glassware, label, nutritional, who's going to do your nutritional analysis on your products now. So those resources are there. And again, feel free to contact me. My email is on this presentation if you have questions, because it seems that everybody's product, it's just needs nuanced a little bit. When you start looking at the regulations, they're kind of broad category. It's acidified, it's hazardous, non-hazardous, and we don't think in those kinds of terms the way the regulators write that. We think in terms of, well, my product is this, so if I can help you navigate some of that, please feel free to contact me. And the other site that I maintain is the Maryland Rural Enterprise Development Center, and we have under specialty modules, a very large food category here as far as regulations, processing modules, rules for specialty foods, direct marketing. It's a launch pad for a lot of this. When we started working with the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene and MDA and some of the other regulators, we said we need a portal for specialty foods folks and value-added, kind of a one-stop shop of where they can go in and you don't know what you don't know about this, so that they could start to get information on these regulations, but also to find other resources that you may need to contact. And again, we have a food processing resource directory there with lots of contacts, such as other processors if you're looking for a co-packer, or if you're even looking for other product producers in your own category. It's a pretty good resource. And with that, again, these are my contact information, my email. You're welcome to call me. I will say that probably I'm not in my office as much as I'm out, so email I get all the time. My phone messages I pick up at the end of the day. So Happy to field any other questions or encourage you to visit those 2 websites for more information.
Thank you for watching our archived presentation of our Wednesday webinar. If you would like to see more archived Wednesday webinars, please visit our YouTube channel, or to find a schedule of upcoming live webinars, visit our website.